The gunshots shattered the afternoon calm of Boston's Newbury street, like glass exploding in slow motion, each crack reverberating off the elegant brownstone facades and luxury storefronts that lined one of the city's most prestigious shopping districts. Chen didn't calculate the odds, didn't weigh her own survival against a stranger's safety, didn't pause to consider the consequences of what her body was about to do. She just moved. 1 second. She was walking past Chanel's window display, her nurse's scrubs still bearing the coffee stain from her rushed lunch break. Her mind occupied with the patient in room 304, who reminded her so much of her late grandmother. The next second, time seemed to fracture and slow, reality splitting into before and after. She saw the small Korean girl frozen in the crosswalk, her pink backpack sliding off one shoulder, her school uniform pristine and expensive, her face a mask of pure terror. The child couldn't have been more than 7 years old, with silky black hair cut in a neat bob and wide eyes that reflected the incomprehension of someone too young to understand that death was racing toward her at lethal speed. Maya's body moved before her brain could catalog all the reasons this was insane, all the ways she could die, all the logical arguments for self-preservation. Her legs propelled her forward in a sprint born of pure instinct, the same instinct that had driven her into emergency medicine, the same instinct that had made her unable to walk past suffering without trying to help. She launched herself toward the child, her arms outstretched, her own safety forgotten in the singular focus of reaching that little girl before the bullets did. They collided, Maya and the child, and then they were falling, tumbling toward the sidewalk in a controlled crash that would leave Maya's knees and elbows scraped raw. Maya twisted her body as they fell, taking the impact on her own hip and shoulder, cushioning the child beneath her, covering the small body completely with her own. They hit the pavement hard. Pain exploded through Maya's shoulder, sharp and immediate. Her hips screamed in protest, but she ignored it all, wrapping herself around the child like a human shield, making her body as large as possible, protecting every inch of the little girl beneath her. The gunfire continued, a horrific symphony of death. Bullets tore through car windows, sending safety glass cascading like deadly rain. Storefront windows exploded, designer merchandise suddenly exposed to the violence of the street. Metal pinged against metal as rounds hit vehicles. Somewhere, someone was screaming high and endless, and terrified. Maya felt the heat of bullets whizzing past her head, so close she could feel the displacement of air. One round hit the pavement inches from her leg, sending concrete chips flying. Another shattered the window directly above them, glass raining down on her back, cutting through her thin scrubs. But the child beneath her was unharmed, untouched, protected. "Don't move," Maya whispered in the girl's ear, her voice somehow steady despite the terror flooding her veins like ice water. "I've got you, sweetheart. I've got you. You're safe. Just stay still and stay quiet. I won't let anything hurt you." The child's heart hammered against Maya's chest like a trapped bird. The little body trembled violently, small hands clutching at Maya's scrubs with desperate strength. Maya could feel warm tears soaking into her shoulder as the child buried her face against her. "그냥 가만히 있어," Maya whispered in halting Korean, exhausting nearly all of the language she'd picked up from patients. "Just stay still. 괜찮아. It's okay." The gunfire seemed to last an eternity. In reality, it was perhaps 30 seconds, half a minute of hell, that would replay in Maya's nightmares for months to come. But finally, blessedly, it stopped. The silence that followed was almost as deafening as the gunshots had been, broken only by car alarms, crying, and the sound of running footsteps. Maya kept her body over the child, not trusting the silence, ready to shield her again if the shooting resumed. Her ears rang, her hands shook. Every nerve in her body screamed at her to run, to get to safety, to check herself for wounds she might not have felt in the adrenaline surge. But she stayed, covering the child, protecting a stranger's daughter with her own life. What Maya didn't know, couldn't have known in that moment of chaos and courage, was that she'd just thrown herself over the most protected, most valuable, most dangerous child in all of Boston. 7-year-old Kang Ji-woo, the only daughter of Kang Min-jun, the city's most powerful and ruthless Korean mafia boss, a man who controlled the docks, the imports, the flow of money and power through Boston's underworld, a man feared by enemies and respected by allies, a man who would burn the entire city to the ground if his daughter was harmed. And in less than 3 minutes, when Min-jun's convoy of black SUVs screeched to a halt at the scene, when he burst from his vehicle with his heart in his throat and murder in his eyes, when he saw his daughter alive and unharmed in the arms of a stranger who was still lying there even after the shooting stopped, still shielding Jiwoo with her own body. He would look at Maya Chen with such raw, visceral intensity that the air itself would seem to catch fire. The carefully controlled crime lord would crack open, just for a moment, revealing the desperate father beneath. And in that moment, seeing this stranger who'd risked everything for his child, something would shift in Minjun's chest, something profound and irrevocable. "Find everything about her," he would tell his men, his voice deadly calm despite the earthquake of emotion beneath. "Everything. Where she lives, where she works, where she buys her coffee. I want to know who she is, what she loves, what keeps her awake at night. Find it all. Some acts of courage save a life. This one was about to change 2 lives forever. And neither Maya Chen nor Kang Minjun would ever be the same. Kang Minjun, the king of Boston's underworld. Minjun's day had started at 5 a.m., as it always did, with the disciplined routine of a man who understood that control was the difference between power and chaos. He'd risen from his king-sized bed in the penthouse that occupied the entire top floor of one of Boston's most exclusive buildings. The space was minimalist perfection, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city he'd claimed as his territory, furniture that cost more than most people's cars, and art carefully selected to project sophistication and wealth. But the one splash of color, the one element that softened the cold perfection, was Jiwoo's artwork covering one entire wall of the living room, crayon drawings and watercolor paintings, each one carefully framed and displayed like the treasures they were to him. Minjun had done 100 push-ups, 200 sit-ups, and spent 30 minutes in meditation practices taught by his grandfather in Seoul, disciplines that kept his mind sharp and his body ready for violence. In his world, weakness was death, distraction was vulnerability, control was survival. He'd showered, dressed in a Tom Ford suit that cost $8,000, and eaten breakfast while reviewing overnight reports from his lieutenants. 3 shipments had arrived at his docks. 2 rival organizations were showing interest in territories he controlled. One of his legitimate businesses, a high-end restaurant in the North End, was being audited by the IRS, which meant he'd need to ensure certain books remained inaccessible. At 6:30 a.m., he'd woken Jiwoo, helping her get ready for school with the gentle patience that would have shocked his enemies. The terrifying crime lord became a father who braided his daughter's hair, who made her favorite breakfast of kimchi, fried rice and eggs, who listened to her chatter about her best friend Mia and the science project she was working on. "Appa, can I have a sleepover this weekend?" Jiwoo had asked, using the Korean word for father as she always did. "We'll see," Minjun had replied, which they both knew meant he'd have his security team investigate Mia's family before allowing his daughter anywhere near their house. "Finish your breakfast, princess." He'd driven her to Wilshire Academy himself, as he did every morning when business allowed. The private school cost $60,000 a year and provided the best education in Boston, and more importantly, the best security. Minjun had personally installed additional cameras and had 2 of his men stationed nearby at all times. "Love you, Appa," Jiwoo had said, kissing his cheek before running to join her classmates. "Saranghae, my princess," he'd replied in Korean. "I love you." Watching her go, Minjun had felt the familiar clench in his chest, the fear that lived with him constantly since his wife's death 3 years ago. The knowledge that Jiwoo was his only vulnerability, the single point where his armor was fatally weak. If his enemies ever truly wanted to destroy him, they knew exactly where to strike, which was why he surrounded her with layers of protection that would make the Secret Service look amateurish. Now, at 2:30 p.m., Minjun sat in his office on the 52nd floor of his legitimate business headquarters, a real estate development company that actually did develop real estate, though it also provided perfect cover for his less legal enterprises. The office was all steel and glass and hard edges, much like the man who occupied it. He was 34 years old, though the weight of his responsibilities made him seem older. Leadership aged you, especially when that leadership involved life and death decisions, when weakness meant death not just for yourself but for everyone who depended on you. Minjun was objectively handsome, sharp cheekbones that could cut glass, intense dark eyes that missed nothing, a jaw that spoke of Korean aristocracy somewhere in his bloodline. His hair was styled with casual precision, his clothes impeccable, his watch a Patek Philippe that cost more than most houses. But it was his presence that truly defined him. He carried an aura of controlled violence, of coiled power waiting to be unleashed. When Minjun entered a room, people noticed. When he spoke, people listened. When he gave an order, people obeyed without question, because they'd all seen what happened to those who didn't. His second-in-command, Park Hyun-woo, sat across from him now, reviewing shipping manifests with the meticulous attention to detail that had kept them both alive and prosperous for the past decade. Hyun-woo was 42, graying at the temples, with the calm demeanor of someone who'd seen everything and was no longer surprised by human cruelty or stupidity. "The Italians are pushing back on the North End Agreement," Hyun-woo said, sliding documents across the mahogany desk that was probably worth more than a luxury car. "Marcello thinks he can renegotiate terms now that Carmine is gone." Minjun's jaw tightened, the only external sign of his irritation. Internally, he was calculating, assessing threats, weighing options, determining how much force would be necessary to remind Marcello why the existing terms were non-negotiable. "Marcello thinks his uncle's death gives him leverage," Minjun replied in Korean, his voice like ice sliding over steel. "He's forgotten why Carmine agreed to those terms in the first place. He's forgotten what happened to the last person who thought they could squeeze me. Do you want me to arrange a meeting?" "Yes. Somewhere public enough that he feels safe, private enough that we can speak freely." Minjun's eyes went cold. "And make sure he understands this is a courtesy. The next conversation won't be nearly as polite." Hyun-woo nodded, making notes. "And the Lee situation?" "Lee Sang-ho has been making moves on our territory. Nothing overt yet, but he's testing boundaries." Lee Sang-ho. The name alone made Minjun's blood pressure rise. Lee ran the second-largest Korean organization in Boston, constantly probing for weakness, always looking for opportunities to expand his own power. They'd maintained an uneasy peace for 3 years, ever since Minjun had decisively won their last territorial dispute. But peace in their world was always temporary, always conditional, always one bad decision away from all-out war. "What kind of moves?" Minjun's voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. "Approaching our distributors with better terms. Offering protection to businesses in our territory. Nothing actionable yet, but definitely deliberate." Hyun-woo met his eyes. "He's probing, seeing how far he can push before you respond. Then we respond. Firmly, publicly." Minjun stood, moving to the windows that offered a view of his city because that's how he thought of Boston now. His city, his territory, his responsibility and his kingdom. "I want our people reminded why they stay loyal to us. I want Lee's people reminded why they should stay in their own territory. Handle it." "How forcefully?" "Forcefully enough that there's no confusion about the message. But cleanly. I don't want police attention." This was the dance of his world, power and violence balanced with calculation and control. Too weak, and rivals would tear him apart. Too brutal, and he'd attract law enforcement attention that even his considerable connections couldn't deflect. He'd learned this from his father, who'd run the organization before him, and his father had learned from his father. 3 generations of Kangmen, building and maintaining power through blood and brilliance. Minjun had never wanted this life. As a young man in Seoul, he'd dreamed of something different, maybe architecture, maybe teaching. But when his father had died unexpectedly when Minjun was just 22, leadership had fallen to him. The organization needed a strong hand, or it would have been torn apart by rivals and traitors. So he'd become strong, had made himself into something harder than steel and colder than winter, had done things that haunted him in rare, quiet moments. But then he'd met Yoon Se-yeon. Beautiful, intelligent Se-yeon, the daughter of a legitimate businessman, who'd somehow seen past the violence to the man underneath. She'd loved him despite what he was, maybe because of it. She'd given him Ji-woo, the only purely good thing he'd ever created. And then cancer had taken her, brutal and fast, leaving him with a 4-year-old daughter and a grief so profound he'd almost let the organization collapse from neglect. Almost. But Ji-woo had needed him to be strong. So he'd buried his grief beneath layers of ice and control, had rebuilt his armor thicker than before, had promised himself he'd give his daughter the best life he possibly could, even if that life came from blood money and violence. He'd moved them to Boston, away from Seoul's memories, away from places where Seo-yeon's ghost lingered in every corner. He'd built an empire here, had made himself untouchable, had surrounded Ji-woo with protection that should have made her safer than anyone in the city. Should have. Minjun's phone buzzed Ji-woo's security detail. He answered immediately, his entire focus shifting to his daughter. "Yes? Sir, we're on Newbury Street." Ji-woo wanted to look at the new bookstore, and then she saw the window display ad. The sound of gunshots exploded through the line, loud and rapid and unmistakable. Minjun's world stopped. Everything his carefully maintained control, his cold calculation, his ability to think strategically shattered in an instant. "Ji-woo!" His shout was raw, desperate, nothing like the controlled voice his men were used to. He was on his feet, Phone pressed to his ear so hard it hurt. Report. What's happening? More gunshots. Screaming. Chaos transmitted through the phone line with horrific clarity. Then Yoon's voice, his head of security, tight with panic that Minjun had never heard before. Shots fired! Multiple shooters! We're pinned down! The line went dead. Complete silence. Minjun stared at the phone in his hand, his mind refusing to process what he'd just heard. This couldn't be happening. He'd been so careful, had taken every precaution, had built walls of protection around his daughter that should have been impenetrable. But someone had gotten through. Someone was shooting at his daughter. Someone was trying to kill the only thing in this world he loved. Every nightmare he'd had since Seo-yeon's death. Every fear he'd buried beneath layers of control. Every horrific possibility he'd tried. Not to imagine all of it surged to the surface in a tidal wave of terror that nearly brought him to his knees. Get every man we have to Newbury Street now, he barked at Hyunwoo, already running for the door. Call the police, call our people in the department, call everyone. Move. The elevator took too long. Minjun nearly broke the control panel, hitting the button repeatedly. His jaw clenched so tight his teeth hurt. Images flashed through his mind. Jiwoo's body on the pavement, her blood mixing with glass, her small hand reaching for a father who hadn't been there to protect her. He'd killed men for less than threatening her. He'd destroyed entire organizations for simply existing too close to her orbit. He'd built his entire empire around keeping her safe, and it hadn't been enough. The parking garage. His car, a Mercedes S-Class with bulletproof glass and armor plating that could withstand a military assault. His driver, Jong-soo, already had the engine running, had heard the urgency in Hyunwoo's call over the radio. Newbury Street, Minjun commanded, his voice deadly calm now, the panic locked down beneath ice. As fast as you can. Jong-soo drove like a man possessed, weaving through Boston traffic with the skill of someone trained for evasive maneuvers. The drive should have taken 12 minutes. They made it in 4.5, running red lights, using the shoulder, forcing other cars out of the way. But it felt like hours. Hours of Minjun sitting in the back seat, his hands clenched into fists, his mind cycling through every possible scenario. Jiwoo dead. Jiwoo injured. Jiwoo traumatized but alive. Jiwoo taken as a hostage. And beneath all of it, beneath the father's terror, the crime lord was already calculating revenge. Lee Sung-ho? The Italians? Some other enemy he hadn't identified? Whoever was responsible would learn the true meaning of suffering. Minjun would take everything from them, their family, their power, their life, and he'd do it slowly enough that they'd beg for death long before it came. But first, he needed to know if his daughter was alive. The scene that greeted him when they screeched to a halt was chaos incarnate. Police cars everywhere, their lights painting the elegant street in blue and red. Ambulances pulling up. Civilians streaming away from the scene. Some bleeding, some crying, all terrified. His men forming a perimeter with weapons drawn, their faces grim. And in the center of it all, Jiwoo, alive. Sitting on the curb, wrapped in someone's jacket, her face tear-stained but unharmed, her school uniform dusty but not bloody. Alive. Minjun's legs nearly gave out with relief. The iron control he'd maintained for years cracked, and for a moment, he was just a father who'd almost lost his child, grateful beyond words that she was still breathing. He burst from the vehicle before it fully stopped, his men parting for him automatically. Jiwoo! She looked up, saw him, and her face transformed. Appa! Minjun dropped to his knees on the dirty sidewalk, not caring about his $8,000 suit, not caring about anything except gathering his daughter into his arms. She collided with him, and he crushed her against his chest, his eyes squeezed shut, his whole body shaking with relief so profound it was almost painful. 괜찮아, he whispered in Korean, his voice breaking. 괜찮아, baby. Appa's here. You're safe now. It's okay. It's okay. Jiwoo was babbling in Korean, her words tumbling over each other. The bad men had guns and there was shooting, and I was so scared. But Miss Maya saved me. Appa. She jumped on me and protected me, and she was so brave. Miss Maya? Minjun pulled back slightly, checking Jiwoo for injuries with practiced hands, looking for blood or wounds or anything wrong. But she was perfect, unharmed, not even a scratch. Who is Miss Maya? He asked, his hands still running over Jiwoo's arms and legs, unable to believe she was truly okay. The angel lady, Jiwoo pointed. Minjun followed her finger and saw her for the first time. The woman who'd saved his daughter's life. Chen, the nurse who couldn't walk away. Maya's ears were still ringing from the gunfire. a high-pitched whine that made the world sound distant and muffled. Her hands shook as she sat on the curb, adrenaline beginning to ebb and leave her feeling hollowed out and shaky. She should probably check herself for injuries more thoroughly. Should probably accept one of the paramedics' offers to examine her. But the little girl Ji-woo, she'd learned, clung to her hand like a lifeline, and Maya didn't have the heart to pull away. The child had been through enough. If holding Maya's hand made her feel safer, then Maya would sit here as long as necessary, scraped knees and all. "You're okay," Maya repeated for probably the 20th time, as much to reassure herself as the child. "You're safe now, sweetheart. The bad people are gone." Ji-woo's grip tightened. "You saved me. You jumped on me when the guns were shooting." Her English was accented but clear, and her eyes, wide and dark and still frightened, stared at Maya with something like worship, like my Appa would do. "Any good person would have done the same," Maya said gently, though part of her knew that wasn't true. Most people froze in emergencies. Most people's self-preservation instincts overrode everything else. But Maya had spent years in the ER, had trained herself to run toward emergencies instead of away, to override fear with action. Today, that training had saved a child's life. Maya Chen was 28 years old, Chinese-American, born in San Francisco, to immigrant parents who'd sacrificed everything to give their children opportunities they'd never had. Her father had worked in a restaurant kitchen for 30 years. Her mother had cleaned houses, and both had pushed Maya and her younger brother Michael toward education, with the fierce determination of people who understood that knowledge was the only reliable ladder out of poverty. Maya had been pre-med at UC Berkeley when Michael died. 8 years old, hit by a drunk driver while riding his bike. Killed instantly. The grief had nearly destroyed their family. Her mother had barely spoken for 6 months. Her father had thrown himself into work with desperate intensity, as if staying busy enough could outrun the pain. And Maya had changed her major from pre-med to nursing, had graduated top of her class, and had moved across the country to Boston, as if distance could somehow make the loss easier to bear. It hadn't. But working in the ER, helping families in their worst moments, saving the lives she could save, that helped. That gave purpose to the senseless loss. That made her feel like Michael's death meant something, had changed her in ways that allowed her to help others. She was pretty in an understated way that meant she didn't attract constant attention but photographs well. Almond-shaped eyes that tilted up slightly at the corners, a gift from her mother's genetics. Long, dark hair that she usually wore in a practical ponytail, for work. A slender build that belied surprising strength. You needed physical strength to work in an ER, to help move patients, to perform CPR. But it was her compassion that truly defined her. Maya couldn't walk past suffering without trying to help. Couldn't see someone in pain without wanting to ease it. It was simultaneously her greatest strength and her most dangerous vulnerability. Today was supposed to have been simple. Finish her shift at Boston General. A 12-hour marathon in the emergency room where she'd treated 3 cardiac arrests, 1 gunshot wound, gang-related, not unusual for their part of the city, 2 car accident victims, and a small child who'd swallowed a quarter. Grab groceries on the way home. Maybe finally call her mother, who'd been leaving increasingly worried voicemails about Maya working too hard, living alone in a city where she had no family, never dating. Her mother wanted her to move back to San Francisco, to be close to family again, to stop running from Michael's ghost. But Maya wasn't ready. Maybe she never would be. Instead, she'd been walking down Newbury Street, exhausted and hungry, and thinking about what to make for dinner, when she'd heard the gunshots, and seen the little girl frozen in terror, and moved without thinking. Now, sitting on the curb with glass in her hair and blood seeping through her torn scrubs at her knees, Maya was processing what she'd done. She'd thrown herself into the line of fire, had covered a stranger's child with her own body, could have died, would have died, if the shooter's aim had been better. She should be terrified, should be falling apart, should be crying or shaking or demanding someone explain what the hell had just happened. Instead, she felt strangely calm. The same calm that descended during trauma cases in the ER, when her training took over and her hands knew what to do even when her mind was screaming. "Miss?" A police officer approached, notepad in hand, young and looking almost as shaken as Maya felt. "I'm Officer Chen. No relation, I assume?" He tried for a smile that didn't quite land. "We need to get your statement." "In a minute," Maya said, her arm still around Ji-woo. She's still scared, which was true, but also... Maya wasn't sure she could stand up yet. Her legs felt like water. Her whole body was beginning to register the impact of hitting the pavement at speed. the bruises blooming across her hip and shoulder making themselves known now that adrenaline was fading. "Are you hurt?" the officer asked, finally noticing her scraped and bleeding knees. "I'm fine. It's superficial." Maya had enough medical training to know the difference between dangerous injuries and painful but manageable ones. These fell into the latter category. "Miss Maya?" Jiwoo's small voice pulled her attention back. "What's your whole name?" "Maya Chen. And you're Jiwoo, right? That's a beautiful name. It means wisdom in Korean. My ioma, my mother picked it before she died." Jiwoo's matter-of-fact delivery of this heartbreaking information made Maya's chest ache. "She said she wanted me to be wise and strong." "I think you are. You stayed very still when I told you to. And you were so brave." "You were braver. Appa says most people run away from danger. You ran toward it." Jiwoo leaned her head against Maya's shoulder. "That makes you special." Before Maya could respond, she felt a change in the air, a shift in temperature and pressure that made her look up. A man was striding through the police barricade like it didn't exist, like the yellow tape was a suggestion rather than a boundary. He was flanked by men in expensive suits with hard eyes and the kind of alert posture that spoke of military or security training. The police officers seemed to step aside automatically, clearing a path without consciously deciding to. The man at the center was devastating. That was the only word for it. Maya had seen handsome men before, worked with doctors who could have been models, dated a few attractive guys in college, but this was different. This was presence and power wrapped in perfect masculine beauty. He was tall, probably 6 feet or slightly more, with broad shoulders that spoke of time in the gym doing more than just cardio. He wore a suit that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent. She couldn't name the designer, but she recognized quality when she saw it. Dark, perfectly tailored, with a white shirt and no tie, the collar open just enough to seem deliberately casual rather than sloppy. But it was his face that made her breath catch. Sharp, beautiful features that could have been carved from marble, high cheekbones, a strong jaw, full lips that were currently pressed into a thin line of barely controlled emotion. His hair was black and styled with the kind of casual precision that looked effortless but probably required expensive product and attention. And his eyes dark, intense, and currently etched with such raw emotion that Maya felt like she was witnessing something private, something not meant for public viewing. This was a man used to control, used to masking his feelings, used to showing the world exactly what he wanted them to see and nothing more. But right now, his mask had slipped, and beneath it, Maya saw a father who'd nearly lost his child. "Appa!" Jiwoo scrambled up, running toward him. The man dropped to his knees on the dirty sidewalk without hesitation, catching his daughter and crushing her against his chest. His eyes squeezed shut, his whole body shaking with relief so profound it was almost painful to witness. He spoke rapid Korean, his voice breaking on words Maya couldn't understand, his hands running over Jiwoo's hair, her arms, her back, checking for injuries with the desperate thoroughness of a parent who'd feared the worst. Jiwoo answered in the same language, her small hands patting his face reassuringly, and Maya saw tears streaming down the man's cheeks. Something in Maya's chest tightened. This was love. Raw, unfiltered, desperate love between a father and daughter. Whatever else this man might be, and judging by the security detail and the way everyone deferred to him, he was someone important and probably dangerous. He loved his daughter with everything in him. Then his eyes opened and found Maya's. The impact of that gaze hit her like a physical force. It was as if he truly saw her, not just looked at her, but saw into her, reading something in her face or her posture or her eyes that made his expression shift. He stood slowly, Jiwoo still in his arms, and walked toward Maya. His men followed like shadows, creating a wall of protection around them that made the rest of the chaos fade into background noise. Up close, he was even more striking. Maya had to tilt her head back slightly to meet his eyes, and the intensity there made her pulse quicken in a way that had nothing to do with fear. "You protected my daughter," he said. His English was perfect, barely accented, but his voice carried weight, authority, and danger wrapped in silk. "You threw yourself over her. You could have been killed." "I did what anyone would do," Maya replied, slowly getting to her feet despite her shaking legs. She was suddenly very aware of how she must look torn. Bloody scrubs, glass in her hair, bruises already forming on her face where she'd hit the pavement. "No." His gaze intensified, and Maya felt pinned by it. "You did what a hero does, what someone extraordinary does." He bowed slightly, a gesture of deep respect that seemed almost anachronistic in modern America, but somehow fit him perfectly. "I am Kang Min-jun, and I owe you a debt I can never repay." Kang Min-jun. The name sounded familiar, though Maya couldn't immediately place why. Maybe a patient's family member, or someone mentioned in passing at the hospital. "You don't owe me anything," Maya said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm just glad she's safe. That's all that matters." "Miss Maya is a nurse," Jiwoo interjected, her voice proud. "She told me she takes care of sick people, and she knows how to be brave." Something flickered in Minjun's expression, interest, assessment, and something warmer. His eyes traveled over Maya's face, her torn scrubs, her bleeding knees, cataloging details with an intensity that made her skin warm. "A nurse," he repeated, as if filing the information away in some mental database. "At which hospital?" "Boston General. But I really should." "Let me take you there," he interrupted smoothly, his tone making it clear this wasn't really a request. "You're injured. You need medical attention." "I'm fine, really. These are just scrapes." "You're bleeding." His eyes dropped to her knees, her palms the small cuts on her arms from glass. "Please." The word seemed to cost him something, as if he wasn't used to asking rather than commanding. "Allow me to ensure you receive proper care. It's the least I can do." The please was what got her. Despite his commanding presence, despite the obvious power he wielded, despite the dangerous edge that clung to him like expensive cologne, he was asking, not demanding, asking. And there was something in his eyes when he looked at her, something that made Maya feel seen in a way she hadn't been in a long time. Not just looked at, but truly seen. "Okay," she heard herself say, her voice soft. "Thank you." As Minjun's men began escorting them toward a sleek black Mercedes that screamed wealth and power, Maya caught sight of the boutique where she'd been window shopping just minutes ago. Its windows were shattered, bullet holes peppering the elegant facade, mannequins lying in pools of broken glass. She'd almost died today. Had thrown herself over a child she didn't know. Had somehow ended up in the orbit of a man whose eyes promised danger and protection in equal measure. As the car pulled away from the chaos, Jiwoo squeezed between them in the back seat, still holding Maya's hand. And Maya wondered what exactly she'd gotten herself into. And why, part of her, the part that should be screaming warnings, was instead feeling something that might have been anticipation. The drive to Boston General should have taken 15 minutes through normal afternoon traffic. Minjun's driver, Jongsu, made it in 8, navigating through the city with the kind of practiced efficiency that spoke of military training or something similar. The car moved smoothly despite the speed, the interior so well insulated that the chaos of Boston traffic was reduced to a distant hum. Maya sat in the back seat, hyper-aware of Minjun beside her. Jiwoo had positioned herself between them, still holding Maya's hand with one small fist, while her other hand clutched her father's sleeve. The little girl seemed determined not to let either of them out of her sight, as if losing physical contact might make them disappear. "Appa speaks Korean when he's really worried," Jiwoo said, breaking the silence. She'd switched to English, perhaps sensing Maya's limited understanding of her father's language. "Do you speak Korean, Miss Maya?" "Just a little," Maya admitted. "I work with a lot of Korean families at the hospital, so I picked up some basics. Mostly medical terms and phrases to comfort children." She smiled at Jiwoo. "Like Genchana, it's okay. And Apujianayo, it doesn't hurt." Minjun's eyes cut to her, sharp and assessing. There was intelligence there, calculation, and something else Maya couldn't quite identify. "You work in pediatrics?" "Emergency room, but we get children too. Quite often, actually." Maya shifted slightly, wincing as her hip protested. The adrenaline was definitely wearing off now, leaving her increasingly aware of every bruise and scrape. "I've always worked better with families in crisis, maybe because I understand what it's like to be on the other side of that." "The other side?" Minjun's tone was carefully neutral, but Maya sensed genuine curiosity beneath it. She hesitated, then decided honesty was best. Something about this man, this moment, made her want to be truthful. "I lost my younger brother when I was 16. He was only 8. Car accident, drunk driver, ran a red light." The words came easier than they used to, though the grief never fully faded. "After that, I knew I wanted to help families avoid that kind of pain, or at least help them through it when avoiding it wasn't possible." Minjun's expression softened almost imperceptibly, a crack in his controlled facade. "I'm very sorry for your loss. Losing a sibling, losing anyone you love, it changes you fundamentally." "It does. Makes you either harder or more compassionate, I think." "I tried to choose compassion." Maya looked at him directly. "What did you choose?" The question hung in the air between them. Jiwoo looked up at her father curiously, waiting for his answer. "Survival," Minjun said finally, his voice quiet. For my daughter's sake. After my wife died, I chose whatever would keep Jiwoo safe and provide for her future, even if that meant becoming harder than I wanted to be. There was honesty in that answer, and pain. Maya saw grief in his eyes when he mentioned his wife. Old grief, processed, but not forgotten. She understood that kind of loss, the way it became part of your foundation, rather than something you ever truly got over. Your wife, Maya started gently. Cancer, he said, his voice carefully controlled again. 3 years ago. Aggressive, fast-moving. She was diagnosed and gone within 4 months. His hand tightened on Jiwoo's shoulder. Jiwoo was only 4. She has some memories, but not many. I don't know if that makes it easier or harder. Both, Maya said softly. It's probably both. Jiwoo leaned against her father, and Maya saw the little girl's eyes growing heavy. The adrenaline crash was hitting her too. Exhaustion replacing fear now that she was safe in her father's presence. She's been having nightmares, Minjun said quietly, his eyes on his daughter. Every night for months. She wakes up crying, convinced something bad is going to happen. His jaw clenched, and today, her nightmares almost came true. But they didn't, Maya said firmly. She's safe, she's here, and she was incredibly brave. Because you were there. Because you didn't hesitate. Minjun's gaze returned to Maya, intense and searching. Why? You didn't know her. You had no obligation. You could have been killed. Why would you risk your life for a stranger's child? Maya thought about it, trying to put into words something that was more instinct than conscious choice. I saw a child in danger. That's all my brain registered, not a stranger, not someone else's responsibility, just a child who needed help. And I couldn't. Her voice caught slightly. After Michael, after losing him because I wasn't there, wasn't fast enough, couldn't save him. I can't walk past a child in danger. I physically cannot do it. Understanding flickered in Minjun's eyes. You're trying to save the brother you couldn't save. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just trying to make sure no one else loses their brother, their daughter, their child. Maya met his gaze steadily. Does the motivation matter if the outcome is the same? No, Minjun said quietly. I suppose it doesn't. They arrived at Boston General, and Maya felt a strange mix of relief and reluctance. This was her territory, her workplace, where she felt competent and in control. But it also meant this strange, intense interlude with Minjun and Jiwoo would end. Minjun insisted on accompanying her inside. Despite Maya's protests that she could manage on her own, he carried a now sleeping Jiwoo in his arms, the little girl's head resting on his shoulder, her small hands clutching his jacket even in sleep. The ER staff did a double take when Maya walked in. She worked here, she wasn't supposed to be a patient. And the man following her with a child in his arms and what appeared to be a security detail made heads turn. Maya! Oh my God, what happened to you? Dr. Sarah Park rushed over, her eyes wide. Sarah was Maya's closest friend at the hospital, a second-year resident with a sharp mind and sharper sense of humor. She was also Korean-American, and Maya watched as Sarah's eyes flickered to Minjun and then widened slightly with recognition. Long story, Maya said. I need to get cleaned up and checked out. Can you take me? Of course, come on. Sarah gestured toward a bay, then looked at Minjun. Sir, you can wait in the... I stay with her, Minjun said. It wasn't a request. Sarah blinked, clearly taken aback by the authority in his voice. Sir, we have policies about... He can stay, Maya said quickly, sensing this could escalate if she didn't intervene. He's Jiwoo's father, the little girl I helped today. Helped how? Sarah asked, guiding Maya toward an examination bay. There was a shooting on Newbury Street. I covered her when the bullets started flying. Sarah's hands froze mid-reach for supplies. You what? Maya, are you insane? You could have been killed. But I wasn't. Maya sat on the examination table, wincing as her bruised hip protested. Can we just get this over with? I want to go home. Sarah began cleaning Maya's wounds with practiced efficiency. But Maya noticed her friend kept glancing at Minjun, who stood near the curtain with Jiwoo still sleeping in his arms. His security detail had remained outside, giving them some privacy, but his presence alone seemed to fill the small space. "깨끗한 상처입니다," Sarah said in Korean, probably assuming Maya wouldn't understand. The wounds are clean. 하지만 저 남자가 누군지 아세요? But do you know who that man is? Maya kept her expression neutral, not revealing that she'd caught every word. Her Korean was better than she let on a useful skill in a hospital with a large Korean patient population. Miss Park, Minjun said in English, surprising them both. I appreciate your concern for Miss Chen, but I assure you she's perfectly safe with me. In fact, I intend to ensure she remains safe going forward. Sarah's eyes widened. You speak English. I speak 5 languages fluently, Minjun replied with a slight smile that didn't reach his eyes. Including Korean, which means I heard your question. And yes, Miss Chen knows who I am, or at least she will. Maya looked between them, sensing undercurrents she didn't fully understand. Should I know who you are? Beyond Jiwoo's father? Minjun's smile turned genuine, warmer. We'll discuss that over dinner. For now, let's focus on making sure you're properly cared for. Sarah finished bandaging Maya's knees and palms, her movements efficient but her expression troubled. You're going to be sore for a few days. Lots of bruising, but nothing broken. You got lucky, Maya. Incredibly lucky. I know, Maya said quietly. You should file a police report, give a statement about what happened. Already done at the scene. Detective Martinez has my information. Sarah pulled Maya aside slightly, lowering her voice. Maya, be careful. That man, Kang Minjun, he's not just some businessman. Everyone in the Korean community knows his name. She paused, choosing words carefully. Connected. Very connected. And not in good ways. What do you mean, connected? I mean, his family has run certain operations in Seoul for generations. And now he runs them here, in Boston. Sarah's eyes were serious. He's organized crime, Maya, Korean Mafia. And if you're getting involved with him... I'm not getting involved with him, Maya interrupted. Though even as she said it, she wasn't sure it was true. I just saved his daughter. That's all. Is it? Sarah glanced toward where Minjun stood, still holding Jiwoo. Because the way he's looking at you suggests he's seeing more than just his daughter's rescuer. Maya followed Sarah's gaze and found Minjun watching her with an intensity that made her skin warm. Their eyes met, and something electric passed between them. Acknowledgement, attraction, and the beginning of something neither of them had planned for. I can handle myself, Maya said, more confidently than she felt. I hope so, Sarah replied quietly. Because men like that, they're dangerous even when they're being charming, maybe especially then. When Maya was cleared to leave, Minjun insisted on driving her home. You've been through a trauma. You shouldn't be alone tonight. I'm fine, really. I'll just call a rideshare. Maya, the way he said her name stopped her mid-sentence. It was the first time he'd used her first name without the miss in front of it, and the intimacy of it caught her off guard. Please, let me do this. Let me ensure you get home safely. After what you did for Jiwoo, it's the least I can do. How could she refuse that? Especially when Jiwoo woke up just enough to mumble, Please come, Miss Maya. Appa will make sure you're safe. Maya's apartment was in Alston, a modest 1-bedroom in a building that had seen better decades. It was clean and comfortable, but nothing like the wealth Minjun clearly possessed. As they pulled up, Maya felt a flicker of self-consciousness about the peeling paint on the building's exterior, the slightly crooked railing on the front steps. But Minjun's expression didn't change. He helped her out of the car, a gentlemanly gesture that felt natural rather than performative, and insisted on walking her to her door. 3rd floor, Maya said. No elevator, I'm afraid. That's fine. Exercise is good. Minjun adjusted Jiwoo in his arms. The little girl was awake now, looking around with drowsy curiosity. Maya's apartment was small but cozy. She decorated with secondhand furniture and prints from Target, creating a space that felt like home, even if it wasn't fancy. Plants lined her windowsills, succulents and pothos that were hard to kill even with her erratic schedule. Photos of her family occupied most of her bookshelf, including several of Michael at various ages. Your home is lovely, Minjun said, and he sounded genuine. It feels warm, lived in. That's a polite way of saying small and cluttered, Maya said with a self-deprecating smile. No, I meant what I said. My home is 3 times this size and half as welcoming. He set Jiwoo down, and the little girl immediately gravitated toward Maya's bookshelf. You have so many books, Jiwoo exclaimed. Do you like reading, Miss Maya? I love reading, especially before bed. Do you? Yes. Appa reads to me every night. We're reading Harry Potter now. Have you read it? Many times. It's one of my favorites. Jiwoo beamed, and Maya felt her heart squeeze. This little girl was impossible not to love. Miss Chen Maya, Minjun corrected himself. I need to ask you something, and I need you to take it seriously. His tone had changed, become more formal, and Maya felt her guard go up slightly. Okay, the shooting today, it wasn't random. Those men were targeting Jiwoo specifically, trying to get to me through her. He held up a hand when Maya started to speak. I won't go into details about why or who's responsible, but I need you to understand that you're now connected to this situation. Those men saw you protect Jiwoo. They saw you matter to her, and by extension, to me. Maya's stomach dropped. Are you saying I'm in danger? I'm saying I won't let you be in danger, but you need to be careful for the next few days while my people handle the situation. He pulled out a business card, expensive, heavy stock with just a name and phone number. This is my personal number. If anyone approaches you, if anything feels wrong, if you even suspect you're being followed, you call me immediately. Mr. Kang. Minjun, please. Minjun, Maya said, the name feeling intimate on her tongue. I appreciate the concern, but I can't just. I have a life, a job. I can't let fear control me. I'm not asking you to hide. I'm asking you to be smart. And to let me help keep you safe. His eyes were intense, almost pleading. Maya, my daughter is alive because of you. Let me return the favor by ensuring nothing happens to you because of your connection to us. It was the us that got her. The way he'd already grouped them together himself, Jiwoo, and now Maya, as if she'd become part of their unit through one act of courage. Okay, she said quietly. I'll be careful, and I'll call if anything seems wrong. Thank you. He pulled out his phone. I need your number, so I can check in on you. Maya recited it, watching as he saved it with what seemed like excessive care, his fingers moving over the screen with surprising delicacy for such large hands. I'll text you so you have mine, he said. A moment later, her phone buzzed. This is Minjun. Please don't hesitate to contact me for any reason. I should let you rest, he said, though he made no immediate move to leave. But before I go, would you allow me to take you to dinner tomorrow night? As a proper thank you for what you did today. Maya hesitated. Every rational part of her brain was screaming that this was a bad idea. This man was clearly dangerous, clearly involved in things she didn't want to understand. Sarah's warnings echoed in her mind. But then she looked at Jiwoo, who was watching them with hopeful eyes. And she remembered the tears on Minjun's face when he'd held his daughter. The raw love there. The desperate relief. Whatever else he might be, he was a father who loved his child. And something about that made him seem less dangerous and more human. Okay, she heard herself say. Dinner tomorrow. But Minjun, I need you to be honest with me. About who you are and what you do. I won't walk into something blind. I promise you honesty, he said. Even when the truth is uncomfortable. After they left, Jiwoo waving goodbye until they disappeared around the corner, Maya sank onto her couch and finally let herself shake. She'd almost died today. Had thrown herself into gunfire. Had saved a child and apparently caught the attention of a man who Sarah said was Korean Mafia. Her phone buzzed. Minjun, are you sure you're okay? I can send someone to stay nearby if you'd feel safer. Maya stared at the message. Part of her wanted to say yes, wanted the security and protection he was offering. But another part, the independent part that had moved across the country alone, that had built a life on her own terms, refused to be that vulnerable. I'm fine. Thank you for asking. See you tomorrow. His response was immediate. Sleep well, Maya, and thank you for everything. She saved his number, her finger hovering over the contact name. Just Minjun seemed too informal. Mr. Kang, too distant. Finally, she compromised. Minjun, Jiwoo's father. As if she needed the reminder of why she was getting involved with him. That night, Maya dreamed of gunfire and dark eyes and a little girl who'd called her an angel. The first dinner and deepening connection, 12 minutes. Maya changed her outfit 4 times before finally settling on a deep blue wrap dress that was elegant without trying too hard. She'd agonized over the choice, uncertain what was appropriate for dinner with a man who was supposedly Korean Mafia but looked like he should be modeling for luxury brands. Her phone had buzzed throughout the day, Minjun checking in with the kind of regular frequency that suggested genuine concern rather than obligation. Good morning. How are you feeling today? I hope your shift isn't too difficult. Let me know if you need anything. Still on for tonight? I can pick you up at 7. Each message made her smile despite her misgivings. There was something endearing about a powerful, dangerous man sending polite check-in texts like a nervous suitor. At 6:55 p.m., her phone buzzed again. I'm downstairs. Take your time. Maya grabbed her purse, a simple black clutch she'd had since college, and headed down. When she stepped outside, she found Minjun leaning against his Mercedes, and her breath caught in her throat. He'd traded yesterday's suit for something slightly more casual but no less expensive. Dark slacks, a charcoal cashmere sweater that emphasized his broad shoulders, and a wool coat that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His hair was styled with that same casual precision that looked effortless but surely wasn't. When he saw her, his eyes lit up in a way that made her stomach flutter. "You look beautiful," he said simply, opening the passenger door for her. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." Maya slid into the car, immediately enveloped by the scent of leather and his cologne, something expensive and masculine that made her want to lean closer. "Where's Ji-woo tonight?" she asked as he pulled into traffic. "With my brother, Tae-jin." She wanted to come, but I told her this was grown-up time. He glanced at her, something vulnerable in his expression. "I wanted to speak with you properly, just the two of us." Maya's pulse quickened. "Should I be nervous?" "Only if honesty makes you nervous. I promised you truth tonight, and I intend to deliver it." They drove to the North End, Boston's Italian district, but Minjun bypassed the tourist restaurants and pulled up to a building with no sign. Just a discreet entrance with a doorman who bowed slightly when he saw Minjun. "This is one of my restaurants," Minjun explained, helping her from the car. "I come here when I need privacy." One of his restaurants. As if owning multiple high-end establishments was casual. Inside was elegant perfection, soft lighting, intimate tables, exposed brick walls decorated with modern art. The staff greeted Minjun by name, their deference suggesting he was more than just the owner. They were escorted to a private room on the second floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. "This is incredible," Maya breathed, taking in the view. "I'm glad you like it. I wanted." He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "I wanted somewhere I could speak freely, without worrying about who might overhear." They settled at the table, and almost immediately, staff began bringing dishes course after course of Korean delicacies, each more beautiful and aromatic than the last. Kimchi pancakes, bulgogi, japchae, banchan of every variety. "I didn't order anything," Maya said, confused. "I asked them to prepare a tasting menu. Korean dishes my grandmother taught me about when I was young." Minjun began explaining each dish, his voice warming as he talked about the traditions behind the food, the memories of his grandmother cooking in their Seoul home, the way certain smells could transport him back to childhood. "Food is memory," he said, watching her taste the bulgogi. "It connects us to place and time and people we've loved." "This is delicious," Maya said, meaning it. "My mother tried to teach me to cook Chinese food, but I never had the patience. I can make about 3 dishes competently and burn everything else." Minjun smiled, a real smile that transformed his face, making him look younger and less guarded. "Ji-woo says I can only make ramyeon and kimchi fried rice. Everything else our chef handles." "Your chef?" "I employ someone to manage the household and cook. Ji-woo needs proper nutrition, and my schedule is too unpredictable for meal planning." He poured wine for them both, something red and presumably expensive. "But I try to cook with her on weekends. Teach her the recipes my grandmother taught me." There was something deeply touching about imagining this powerful man teaching his daughter to cook, preserving traditions across generations. "Tell me about her," Maya said. "Your grandmother. She seems important to you." Minjun's expression softened. "She raised me, really. My father was always working, building the family business. My mother died when I was young. I barely remember her. Halmione was the one who made sure I was fed, educated, loved." He paused. "She's also the one who taught me that power without honor is just thuggery. That if we were going to be in this life, we had to have principles." "What kind of principles?" "Never harm innocents, never break your word, protect your family above everything else, and never ever involve children in business." His eyes met Maya's. "That's why what happened yesterday, Ji-woo being targeted, that violated every rule, every code. It's unforgivable." Maya heard the steel beneath his words, the promise of retribution. "What will happen to the people responsible?" "They'll be dealt with, permanently." He said it calmly, matter-of-factly, as if discussing something mundane. "Does that disturb you?" "It should," Maya admitted. "I should be horrified. I should probably run away from this dinner and never look back. But you're not." "No. Because as much as I hate violence, as much as it goes against everything I believe in, those men tried to kill a 7-year-old girl. They tried to murder a child, and part of me thinks they deserve whatever's coming to them." Minjun studied her face. "You're more complicated than you appear, Maya Chen." "So are you, Minjun Kang." They ate in comfortable silence for a few moments, the tension between them shifting from wary to something warmer, more intimate. "Tell me about your wife," Maya said gently. "If you're comfortable." Minjun was quiet for so long Maya thought he wouldn't answer. Then, Seoyeon? Her name was Yoon Seoyeon. His voice carried old pain. She was the daughter of a legitimate businessman, someone my father was trying to build connections with. We were supposed to have dinner, discuss potential partnerships. Instead, we talked for 6 hours about literature and art and whether Seoul or New York had better bagels. Maya smiled. Bagels? She'd studied in New York for 2 years, fell in love with bagels and couldn't find comparable ones in Seoul. It was this endearing obsession. His smile was sad. She was brilliant, Maya. Graduated from Seoul National University, spoke 4 languages, could debate philosophy, and then switched to discussing baseball statistics. She saw me, not the organization, not the power, but me, the man underneath. And she didn't mind what you did? She minded. She hated it. But she loved me anyway, and she believed I could be better than the life I'd inherited. He took a long drink of wine. We had 7 years together. 7 years of the best happiness I could have imagined. She gave me Jiwoo, taught me how to be gentle, made me believe I could be more than just my father's son, and then cancer took her. Pancreatic, aggressive. She was feeling tired, went to the doctor thinking it was stress or maybe anemia. They found a tumor the size of a golf ball already metastasized. His hands clenched on the table. 4 months from diagnosis to death. Jiwoo was only 4 years old enough to love her mother desperately, too young to understand why Aoma was getting sicker, why she was sleeping so much, why she eventually stopped waking up. Maya reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. The gesture was instinctive, born from her years comforting grieving families. But the jolt that went through her at the contact was something else entirely. Minjun's eyes flew to hers, dark and intense. He turned his hand over, threading their fingers together. "I'm so sorry," Maya said softly. "For Jiwoo and for you. That kind of loss, there's no preparing for it. No, there isn't. I've faced violence, betrayal, enemies who wanted me dead. But nothing prepared me for watching the woman I loved waste away while being unable to do anything to save her. All my power, all my money, all my connections, useless. Cancer didn't care who I was or what I could do." "Is that why you left Seoul?" "Partly. Everything there reminded me of her. Our apartment, our favorite restaurants, the parks we'd walk through. Jiwoo was having nightmares constantly, waking up crying for her Aoma." He squeezed Maya's hand. "So I moved us here. Fresh start in America. Build the business in new territory where Seoyeon's ghost didn't haunt every corner. Did it help?" "A little. Jiwoo still has nightmares, but less frequently, and I could focus on work without constantly being reminded of what I'd lost." He looked at their joined hands. "Until yesterday. Until you." Maya's breath caught. "What do you mean?" "You reminded me what goodness looks like, what courage looks like." His thumb stroked her palm. "Seoyeon used to tell me there was still good in the world, even when my work showed me mostly darkness. You proved her right." The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility and something that felt dangerous in its intensity. "Minjun," Maya said carefully, "I need to understand something." "Sarah Dr. Park?" "My friend," she said. "You're organized crime. Korean Mafia. Is that true?" He didn't look away, didn't try to soften it. "Yes. My family has run operations in Seoul for 3 generations. My grandfather started it, my father expanded it, and now I control it. Here in Boston, I oversee shipping, imports, certain business interests, some legal, some not." "What does not legal mean exactly?" "It means I facilitate the movement of goods that customs might object to. It means I provide services that exist in legal gray areas. It means I've made enemies who would happily kill me if they could, and I've done things to them first to prevent that." He met her eyes steadily. "I won't lie to you, Maya. I've hurt people, killed people, when necessary. I operate in a world where violence is sometimes the only language people understand." Maya should have pulled her hand away, should have stood up and left, should have blocked his number and never spoken to him again. Instead, she asked, "Do you want to stay in that world?" The question clearly surprised him. "What? Do you want Jiwoo growing up in this life? Do you want her thinking violence is normal, that fear is the price of safety? Do you want to be doing this when she's 16, 26, 36? Maya leaned forward. "Or do you want something different?" Minjun was silent for a long moment. "I want something different," he said finally, his voice raw with honesty. "I want Jiwoo to have a normal life. I want to attend her school plays without calculating threats. I want to sleep through the night without nightmares about her being taken from me. I want. He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. I want what normal families have. Safety, peace, boring, ordinary happiness. Then why don't you leave? Walk away from it? Because it's not that simple. You don't just quit organized crime. There are obligations, loyalties, enemies who would see my departure as weakness. And if I show weakness... He didn't finish, but Maya understood. They'd come after you. After Jiwoo. Yes. So I stay. I maintain power. I make myself too dangerous to challenge. And I pray that someday, somehow, I can find a way out that doesn't end with my daughter becoming an orphan. The vulnerability in his voice cracked something open in Maya's chest. This wasn't a monster. This was a man trapped by circumstances, trying desperately to protect the one person who mattered most to him. What if there was a way out? Maya asked quietly. There isn't. Not yet. But if there was, would you take it? Would you walk away from power and money and all of it for a chance at normal? Minjun's eyes searched hers. Are you asking hypothetically, or for a specific reason? I'm asking because I need to know if the man I'm starting to care about has any hope of being someone Jiwoo can be proud of. Someone who doesn't have to lie about what he does for a living. Someone who can build a life on something other than fear and violence. The words hung between them, an admission Maya hadn't meant to make but couldn't take back. You're starting to care about me? Minjun's voice was soft, almost wondering. I shouldn't be. Every rational part of my brain is screaming at me to run. But yes, I am. Against all logic and common sense, I'm starting to care about you. About Jiwoo. About this possibility of something. Maya met his eyes. But I can't care about someone who's going to end up dead or in prison. I've lost enough people, Minjun. I can't sign up to lose someone else. He was quiet, processing her words. Then he stood, moving around the table to kneel beside her chair, a gesture so unexpected and vulnerable that Maya's breath caught. Maya, he said, taking both her hands in his. I can't promise you I can leave tomorrow. I can't promise there won't be danger or complications. But I can promise you this. I will do everything in my power to find a way out. For Jiwoo's sake, and now his voice dropped lower. Now for yours too. Because you're right. I want to be someone you can care about without fear. Someone Jiwoo can be proud of. That's a big promise. Then hold me to it. Be the conscience I need. Push me to be better than I have been. His hands tightened on hers. Seo-yeon did that for me. She made me want to be more than just my father's son. You could do that too if you're willing to take the risk. Maya looked at him, this powerful, dangerous, surprisingly vulnerable man, and made a choice that would change everything. Okay, she whispered. I'll take the risk. But Minjun, if you're going to promise me you'll be better, then you actually have to be better. Not someday, not eventually. Starting now. Starting now, he agreed. He leaned up, and Maya met him halfway, their lips meeting in a kiss that was soft at first, questioning. Maya answered by cupping his face, pulling him closer, and the kiss deepened into something that made the rest of the world fade away. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Minjun rested his forehead against hers. I should take you home, he said, though he made no move to let her go. You should, Maya agreed, equally motionless. But I don't want to. I don't want you to either. They stayed like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other, before reality intruded in the form of Minjun's phone buzzing insistently. He checked it, frowned, and stood reluctantly. I have to handle something. Work emergency. What kind of emergency? The kind I'd rather shield you from. He helped her up, his hand lingering at her waist. But you asked for honesty. Someone made a move against one of my operations tonight. I need to respond before it escalates. Will you be safe? The concern in her voice made his expression soften. Yes, I'm always careful. Promise me. I promise. He kissed her forehead, a gesture so tender it made Maya's heart ache. Can I see you again tomorrow? I work a double shift tomorrow. 16 hours. Then the day after. Or I could bring Jiwoo to visit you at the hospital. She's been asking when she can see you again. The idea of seeing Jiwoo made Maya smile. I'd like that. She can come visit during my lunch break if she wants. She'll be thrilled. Minjun helped her into her coat, another gentlemanly gesture that seemed natural to him. Thank you for tonight. For listening. For not running away when you learned the truth. Thank you for being honest. He drove her home, walking her to her door again despite the late hour. At her threshold, he kissed her once more, longer this time, deeper, full of promise and possibility. Sleep well, Maya. You too. And Minjun, be safe tonight. Whatever you're dealing with, be safe. For you? Always. She watched him drive away, her fingers touching her lips where he'd kissed her, and wondered what exactly she'd just gotten herself into. Inside her apartment, Maya's phone buzzed. Sarah, please tell me you didn't go to dinner with him. Maya hesitated, then replied honestly. I went to dinner with him. Maya, do you have any idea how dangerous that is? Yes, I do. And I'm doing it anyway. Why? What could possibly be worth that risk? Maya looked at the last message from Minjun. Thank you for tonight. You've given me hope for the first time in years. Because I think he's worth saving, Maya typed back. And maybe I am too. She fell asleep that night thinking about dark eyes and dangerous promises, and a little girl who'd called her an angel. And despite everything, despite the fear and the danger and the uncertainty, Maya felt more alive than she had in years. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of cautious connection and escalating intensity. True to his word, Minjun brought Jiwoo to visit Maya during her lunch break 2 days after their dinner. The little girl burst into the ER waiting room with the kind of enthusiasm only children possessed, carrying a carefully wrapped package. Miss Maya, Miss Maya. Jiwoo ran to her, nearly knocking over a rack of magazines in her excitement. I made you something. Maya caught her in a hug, laughing at the child's energy. What did you make, sweetheart? Open it and see. Inside the package was a drawing crayon and marker on construction paper showing 3 figures. A small girl in the middle, a tall man on one side, and a woman with long dark hair on the other. All 3 were holding hands. Above them, Jiwoo had written in careful letters, My family. Maya's throat tightened. Jiwoo, this is beautiful. That's me, and that's Appa, and that's you, Jiwoo explained, pointing to each figure. Because you're family now. Appa says family is people who protect each other and love each other, and you do both. Maya looked up at Minjun, who stood a few feet away, his expression soft as he watched his daughter. Their eyes met, and Maya saw something there that made her heart race possibility, hope, and something that looked dangerously close to love. Thank you, Jiwoo. I'm going to hang this in my apartment where I can see it every day. They had lunch together in the hospital cafeteria, hospital food that Minjun ate without complaint, listening to Jiwoo chatter about school and friends and the science project she was working on. To anyone watching, they looked like a normal family father, daughter, and maybe a girlfriend or new mother figure having a regular lunch. But Maya noticed Minjun's security detail positioned strategically around the cafeteria. Noticed how his eyes constantly scanned for threats. Noticed the tension in his shoulders that never fully relaxed, even in this moment of domestic normalcy. After Jiwoo ran off to look at the fish tank in the lobby, Minjun moved closer to Maya. How have you been? He asked quietly. Any problems? Anyone following you? Or asking questions? No, nothing like that. It's been completely normal. Maya studied his face. Why? Should I be worried? I'm always worried where you're concerned. Occupational hazard. He traced the back of her hand with one finger, a small touch that sent electricity up her arm. The situation with Lee Sang-ho is escalating. He's making more aggressive moves, testing boundaries. Is Jiwoo safe? She has a full security detail at all times. 4 men minimum, all former military. Her school is locked down tighter than the Pentagon. His jaw tightened. But yes, I'm concerned. Lee is desperate, which makes him unpredictable. And me? Am I in danger? Minjun's eyes met hers, serious and intense. Not if I can help it. But Maya, I need you to promise me something. If anything feels wrong, if you see anyone suspicious, if your instincts even whisper that something's off, you call me immediately. Not 911. Me first. Why not the police? Because the police can't respond as quickly as my people. And because some of Lee's men have connections in the department, I can't trust them to keep you safe. He pulled out a small device looked like a keychain. This is a panic button. You press it, and my security team gets an alert with your exact location. They'll be there in minutes. Maya took the device, feeling the weight of it, both physical and metaphorical. This is really serious, isn't it? I wish I could tell you it wasn't, but yes, it's serious. He cupped her face gently. I'm sorry. Sorry that knowing me puts you at risk. Sorry that I can't just be a normal man taking you on normal dates without all this danger attached. If you were a normal man, we probably never would have met, Maya pointed out. I wouldn't have saved Jiwoo, wouldn't have had dinner with you, wouldn't be standing here now. Would that have been better? Safer for you? Probably. But I don't want safe if safe means never knowing you. The words hung between them, an admission of feelings neither had fully voiced yet. Minjun leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. I don't deserve you, he murmured against her skin. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. Their relationship deepened through stolen moments and careful connection. Coffee dates between Maya's shifts, where Minjun would show up with her exact order memorized vanilla latte, extra hot, with a pump of caramel syrup. They'd sit in the hospital courtyard, talking about everything and nothing. He told her about growing up in Seoul, about his grandmother's cooking, about the weight of inheriting an empire he'd never wanted. She told him about San Francisco, about losing Michael, about choosing medicine as a way to fight back against death. Dinners at Minjun's penthouse, where Jiwoo would insist Maya sit next to her, where the little girl would show Maya her homework and ask for help with reading. Maya watched Minjun with his daughter, patient, gentle, completely devoted, and fell a little more in love with both of them each time. Late-night phone calls when Minjun couldn't sleep, when the weight of his world pressed too heavy. He'd call at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., his voice rough and tired, and Maya would talk him through it. Sometimes about nothing important, movies they'd seen, books they'd read. Sometimes about heavier things, his fears for Jiwoo's future, his guilt about the life he'd built, his desperate desire to be better than he was. Tell me something good, he'd say on those late calls. Tell me there's beauty in the world beyond what I see. And Maya would tell him about her patients, the ones who survived against odds, the families who held together through crisis, the small miracles that happened in emergency rooms every day. She'd remind him that goodness existed, that hope was real, that change was possible. You give me that hope, he told her one night, his voice raw with emotion. Before you, I was just going through motions, building power to protect Jiwoo but not really living. You make me want to live again. Want to be more than just fear and violence. Then be more, Maya said simply. Choose it every day. Choose to be the man Jiwoo deserves, the man you want to be. I'm trying. For her. For you. But trying wasn't always enough. The first real warning came 3 weeks into their relationship. Maya was leaving the hospital after a brutal 14-hour shift, exhausted and thinking only of her bed, when she noticed the car. Black sedan, tinted windows, parked across the street from the employee lot. It had been there when she'd arrived that morning. She'd noticed it subconsciously but not thought much about it. Now, seeing it still there, something in her gut twisted with unease. She pulled out the panic button Minjun had given her, thumb hovering over it. But what if she was being paranoid? What if it was just someone waiting for a patient or visitor? Maya decided to test it. She walked toward her car, keys in hand, watching the sedan from the corner of her eye. As she moved, the sedan's engine started. That wasn't normal. She pressed the panic button. Within 90 seconds, Maya counted 2 of Minjun's SUVs screeched into the parking lot, cutting off both exits. Men poured out, moving with military precision, surrounding her car and the suspicious sedan. The sedan tried to flee but was blocked. Maya watched, heart hammering, as Minjun's men forced the driver out, a young Korean man, early 20s, who looked terrified as he was pressed against the hood. Then Minjun himself arrived, his Mercedes pulling up with controlled speed. He was out of the car before it fully stopped, striding toward Maya with an expression that was equal parts relief and fury. Are you hurt? His hands were on her face, her shoulders, checking for injuries. I'm fine. There was a car and it felt wrong, so I pressed the button like you said. You did exactly right. He pulled her against him, one arm around her waist, turning to face the detained man. Who sent you? Minjun asked in Korean, his voice deadly calm. The man said nothing, his face pale with fear. Hyun-woo, Minjun called to his second-in-command. Take him somewhere we can have a proper conversation. Find out who he works for and what his orders were. Yes, sir. As Hyun-woo and 2 others dragged the man to one of the SUVs, Maya felt the reality of Minjun's world crash over her. She'd known intellectually what he was, what he did. But seeing men detained and knowing they'd be interrogated in ways she didn't want to imagine made it viscerally real. Minjun, she said quietly, what's going to happen to him? He's going to tell us everything he knows. Then he's going to deliver a message back to whoever sent him. What kind of message? Minjun's eyes were cold when he looked at the retreating SUV. That touching you is the same as touching Jiwoo. That anyone who threatens either of you will face consequences they can't imagine. He softened slightly, looking back at Maya. I told you I'd protect you. I meant it. By hurting that man? By doing whatever's necessary. He turned her to face him fully. Maya, I know this disturbs you. I know it goes against everything you believe in. But in my world, mercy is weakness. Hesitation gets people killed. If I don't respond to this forcefully, others will try. And next time, you might not have warning. Next time, they might succeed. Maya knew he was right. Hated that he was right. I don't want anyone hurt because of me. They're not being hurt because of you. They're being hurt because they threatened someone under my protection. That's on them, not you. He kissed her forehead. Come on. You're staying at my place tonight. I'm not letting you go home to an empty apartment when Lee has people watching you. Minjun, I can't just... Yes, you can. And you will. His tone was firm. Unless you want to argue in a parking lot while my men secure the area. Maya looked around, noticing hospital staff and patients staring at the scene. Multiple SUVs, armed security, the kind of display that would definitely get people talking. She was going to have to explain this at work tomorrow. Fine, your place. But just for tonight. We'll see. Minjun's penthouse was exactly what Maya expected and somehow more. 52nd floor. 3,000 square feet of minimalist luxury with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Boston at night. Everything was designer, expensive, perfect, except for one wall completely covered in Jiwoo's artwork and scattered toys that proved a child actually lived here. Jiwoo's already asleep, Minjun explained, leading Maya to the living area. But she'll be thrilled to see you in the morning. Where will I sleep? Guest room is down that hall. Or, he paused, something vulnerable in his expression. You could stay with me. Just sleep. I just want to hold you. Make sure you're safe. Maya knew she should insist on the guest room, should maintain boundaries, should remember that this was moving fast, maybe too fast. Instead, she said, Okay, just sleep. Minjun's bedroom was surprisingly simple for someone with his wealth. A king-sized bed, yes, but minimal decoration. A photo of Jiwoo on the nightstand. A book in Korean looked like poetry on the side table. The only extravagance was the view Boston spreading out below like a field of lights. He gave her one of his shirts to sleep in soft, expensive cotton that smelled like his cologne. When Maya emerged from the bathroom, self-conscious in the oversized shirt that hit her mid-thigh, she found Minjun already in bed, propped against the headboard in sleep pants and a t-shirt. He looked almost normal like this. Not a crime lord, not a dangerous man, just someone tired and worried and human. Come here, he said softly, lifting the covers. Maya slid in beside him, and Minjun immediately pulled her close, her head on his chest, his arm around her shoulders. She could hear his heartbeat strong, steady, reassuring. Are you okay? He asked quietly. Really okay? Today was frightening. I'm processing, Maya admitted. Knowing intellectually that you're dangerous is different from seeing it. Seeing that man's face when your people surrounded him, he was terrified. Minjun. He should be terrified. He was watching you, reporting on your movements, probably planning the best way to grab you. His arm tightened. Do you know what they would have done if they'd taken you? Used you to force my compliance, hurt you to hurt me. And when they were done, his voice went rough. I've seen what Lee does to people. It's not quick. It's not merciful. Maya shuddered, and Minjun immediately pulled her closer. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Shouldn't have scared you. No, I needed to hear it. Needed to understand the real stakes. Maya lifted her head to look at him. This isn't a game, is it? This isn't just rival businessmen having disagreements. This is life and death. Yes, it always has been. That's why I tried to keep you separate. Tried to protect you from knowing too much. But you were right, you deserved honesty. He cupped her face. Maya, if this is too much, if you want to walk away, I'll understand. I'll make sure you're protected, that Lee leaves you alone. But you don't have to stay in this. Don't have to accept this life. And what about Jiwoo? If I walk away, I lose her too. I lose both of you. Yes, but you'd be safe. That's more important than what I want. Maya studied his face, the sincerity there. The selflessness that seemed at odds with everything he supposedly was. This man would let her go if he thought it would keep her safe, even though it would hurt him. Even though it would hurt Jiwoo. I'm not walking away, she said firmly. I'm scared, yes. This is way outside my comfort zone. But I'm not leaving you or Jiwoo. I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you're actively looking for a way out. Not just thinking about it, not just wishing for it, but actually taking steps toward a legitimate life. Because I can't do this forever, Minjun. I can't live in constant fear that someone's going to hurt you or Jiwoo or me. I need to know there's an endpoint. Minjun was quiet for a long moment. Then, I've been meeting with lawyers. Quietly, without my organization knowing. Exploring options for stepping back, transitioning operations to my brother or other lieutenants. It's complicated. There are loyalties, obligations, enemies who would see it as weakness. But I'm trying, Maya. I swear I'm trying. How long? To fully extract myself? At least a year. Maybe 2. I have to do it carefully. Make sure Jiwoo is safe. Make sure we have enough legitimate income to maintain our life. He stroked her hair. But I'm committed to it now. Before, it was a vague someday. Now, with you it's a specific goal. Something I'm actively working toward. Okay, a year or 2. I can handle that. Can you, honestly? Maya thought about it. Thought about what she was signing up for, months or years of danger, of looking over her shoulder, of watching the man she loved operate in darkness. But she also thought about Jiwoo's laughter, Minjun's rare smile, the family they could maybe become if they survived long enough. Yes, she said finally. As long as I know we're moving toward something better, I can handle the present. I don't deserve you, Minjun murmured, kissing her softly. You keep saying that, because it's true. You're good, Maya, pure in ways I stopped being years ago, and I'm dragging you into darkness. Then maybe I'll drag you into light instead. Balance each other out. She kissed him back, deeper this time. We're in this together now, Minjun, for better or worse. They made love that night, slow, tender, a ceiling of promises made and risks accepted. Afterward, wrapped in each other's arms, Maya felt safer than she had any right to feel given the circumstances. Saranghae, Minjun whispered in Korean. I love you, Maya Chen. I love you too. Maya whispered back, the words feeling both terrifying and inevitable. She fell asleep to the sound of his heartbeat, not knowing that the worst was yet to come. The breaking point and betrayal, 10 minutes. The illusion of safety lasted exactly 11 more days. Maya had moved most of her essential belongings to Minjun's penthouse, though she'd kept her apartment for appearances. She couldn't fully move in, not yet, not when they weren't married, not when Jiwoo was still adjusting to the idea of her father having a girlfriend. But she spent most nights there, had her own drawer in Minjun's dresser, her own space in his bathroom. Jiwoo was thriving with Maya around. The nightmares had decreased dramatically. The little girl called Maya, Maya Ioma, sometimes Mother Maya, a title that made Maya's heart squeeze every time. They'd developed routines. Maya braiding Jiwoo's hair before school, helping with homework, reading together before bed while Minjun handled business calls. It felt like family, felt like building toward something real and permanent. And then it all came crashing down. Maya was at the hospital, working a rare day shift, when Hyunwoo arrived in the ER looking grim. Miss Chen, I need you to come with me immediately. Maya's blood went cold. What's wrong? Is it Minjun? Jiwoo? Jiwoo is safe, but there's been an incident. Mr. Kang requests your presence. What kind of incident? I'll explain in the car. Please. We need to move now. Maya told her supervisor she had a family emergency, which was true, though she couldn't explain the details, and followed Hyunwoo to the parking garage. 2 SUVs waited, engines running, security detail alert and tense. Hyunwoo, you're scaring me. What happened? Lee Sang-ho made his move. He attacked one of our warehouses this morning, killed 3 of our men, and stole a shipment worth millions. But that was just the opening gambit. Hyunwoo's jaw tightened as he navigated through traffic. He leaked information to the FBI, detailed information about our operations, financial records, names of people in our organization. It's all over the news now. Maya's stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means Mr. Kang is facing federal charges. Money laundering, racketeering, potentially more. The FBI raided his offices an hour ago. His assets are being frozen. And Hyunwoo glanced at her. They're looking at everyone connected to him, including you. Me? But I didn't do anything. You're living with him. You have access to his home, his daughter, his life. They'll investigate you as a potential accomplice or witness. I'm sorry, Miss Chen, but your life is about to become very complicated. They arrived at the penthouse to find it crawling with federal agents, boxes being carried out, files being seized. Minjun stood in the living room, flanked by lawyers, his face a mask of controlled fury as agents tore through his home. When he saw Maya, something in his expression cracked. You shouldn't be here, he said, moving toward her despite his lawyer's protests. Maya, you need to leave before they connect you to this. Too late for that, a woman's voice said. FBI Special Agent Jennifer Morrison stepped forward, her badge prominently displayed. Maya Chen? We have questions for you about your relationship with Kang Minjun. I want a lawyer, Maya said immediately, remembering every crime show she'd ever watched. That's your right. But understand that cooperation now will be viewed more favorably than obstruction later. Agent Morrison's eyes were sharp, assessing. We know you've been living here. We know you have a relationship with Mr. Kang's daughter. We know you were present during at least 3 incidents involving known criminals. What we don't know is how much you knew about his illegal activities. I knew nothing about any illegal activities, Maya said, which was technically true. Minjun had been careful to shield her from operational details. I know he's a businessman with import-export operations. That's all. A businessman who happens to run the largest Korean organized crime syndicate in Boston. Agent Morrison pulled out photos, surveillance shots of Minjun meeting with known criminals, entering buildings the FBI had under observation, even one of him with Maya at a restaurant. You're either remarkably naive, Miss Chen, or you're complicit. Which is it? I want a lawyer, Maya repeated, her voice steadier than she felt. I'm not saying anything else without legal representation. Fine. But know this. Agent Morrison stepped closer, lowering her voice. Men like Kang Minjun don't change. They don't go legitimate. They don't become good guys. He's using you, Miss Chen, using your naivete and your compassion to provide cover for his operations. And when the walls close in, he'll throw you away to save himself. They always do. You don't know him, Maya said, even as doubt whispered in her mind. I know men like him. I've been investigating organized crime for 15 years. And the story is always the same. The innocent girlfriend who thought she could save him, who thought she was special, who ended up in prison or worse. Agent Morrison's expression softened slightly. Save yourself. Tell us what you know, and we'll keep you out of this. I have nothing to tell you. Then you're making a mistake you'll regret. Agent Morrison walked away, leaving Maya standing in the chaos of the raided penthouse. Minjun appeared at her elbow, his lawyers forming a protective barrier. Don't say anything to them, one lawyer advised. Not without representation present. They're fishing, trying to pressure you into mistakes. Where's Jiwoo? Maya asked Minjun. With my brother. Safe. Away from this. His hand found hers, squeezing briefly before dropping. Even that small touch felt dangerous with federal agents watching. Maya, I'm so sorry. I tried to keep you out of this. Tried to protect you from exactly this. What's going to happen? To me? I'll probably be indicted. Face trial. Could be looking at years in federal prison. His voice was flat, matter of fact. To you? If you're smart, you'll distance yourself from me immediately. Tell the FBI we're just casual acquaintances, that you knew nothing. They might believe it. Might leave you alone. I'm not abandoning you. Maya. No, you don't get to push me away now. We're in this together, remember? That's what I said. That was before federal charges. Before your career and freedom were at risk. Minjun's eyes were tortured. I can't let you go down with me. I won't. That's not your choice to make. Mr. Kang, one of his lawyers interrupted. We need to go. They want you at the federal building for formal questioning. Minjun looked at Maya for a long moment, as if memorizing her face. Then he leaned in, pressing a kiss to her forehead despite the watching agents. I love you. Remember that. Whatever happens, whatever you hear about me, I love you. I love you too. And I'm not going anywhere. But as she watched him being escorted out by his lawyers, surrounded by FBI agents, Maya felt fear claw at her chest. Agent Morrison's words echoed in her mind. He's using you. He'll throw you away to save himself. She didn't believe that. Couldn't believe that. But a small voice whispered, what if you're wrong? The next 48 hours were hell. Maya was questioned by the FBI for 6 hours with a lawyer present, thanks to Minjun's legal team. They asked about everything. When she'd met Minjun, what she knew about his business, whether she'd ever seen money or goods being moved, if she'd been present during any suspicious meetings. Maya told the truth. She'd met him when she saved his daughter. They'd begun dating. She knew he ran import-export businesses, but nothing about the specifics. She described herself as naive, perhaps willfully blind to what she didn't want to see. The agents didn't seem satisfied, but they also didn't have evidence of her involvement. Because there was none, Minjun had been scrupulous about keeping her away from anything illegal. The media had a field day. Boston crime boss arrested girlfriend questioned. Read one headline. Maya's photo, looking exhausted and frightened, was plastered across news sites alongside Minjun's mugshot. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Her mother called from San Francisco, crying and demanding Maya come home immediately. Her colleagues at the hospital looked at her with suspicion and pity. Patients asked if she was the woman from the news. Maya felt exposed, violated, her private life torn open for public consumption. And through it all, she couldn't stop thinking about Minjun. Was he okay? Was he being treated well? Were they allowing him communication with his lawyers? With Jiwoo? Maya called Taejin, Minjun's brother, desperate for news. "He's managing," Taejin said, his voice tight with strain. "The lawyers are working on bail, but it's complicated. Federal prosecutors are arguing he's a flight risk. Can I see him?" "Not yet. Maybe not at all, depending on restrictions." Taejin paused. "Maya, I need to talk to you about something. About Jiwoo. Is she okay?" "Physically, yes. Emotionally? She's devastated. Keeps asking for her appa and for you. But there's a problem." "What problem?" "Minjun's ex-wife's family. They're filing for emergency custody, arguing that with Minjun in federal custody and facing prison time, Jiwoo should be with blood family. And they're using you as ammunition, pointing out that Minjun let a stranger move into his home, exposed Jiwoo to an unsuitable environment." Maya's heart broke. "They want to take her away? They want to take her back to Korea, away from everything she knows, everyone she loves. And with Minjun, unable to fight back right now." Taejin's voice cracked. "They might succeed." No, they can't do that to her. She's been through enough." "I know. But unless Minjun makes bail and can argue his case, or unless someone else can demonstrate they're a suitable guardian," Taejin didn't finish. But the implication was clear. Maya could fight for Jiwoo, could stand up in court and argue that she was capable of caring for the little girl. But doing so would tie her even more publicly to Minjun, would make the FBI scrutiny worse, would potentially destroy her career. She'd have to choose, protect herself or protect Jiwoo. It wasn't really a choice at all. "Tell me what I need to do," Maya said firmly. "Tell me how to fight for her." The custody hearing was scheduled for a week later. Minjun made bail 2 days before his lawyers finally convincing a judge that he wasn't a flight risk, especially with his daughter in the US. But bail came with conditions. Ankle monitor, restricted travel, no contact with known associates. Maya saw him for the first time in a week at his lawyer's office. He looked exhausted, his usually perfect appearance disheveled, dark circles under his eyes. "Maya," he breathed, standing when she entered. His lawyers discreetly left them alone. She went to him immediately, and he pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "I'm sorry," he whispered into her hair. "I'm so fucking sorry. This is exactly what I didn't want to happen. You caught in the crossfire. Your life destroyed because of me. My life isn't destroyed. I'm fine. You're suspended from the hospital pending investigation. Your face is all over the news. The FBI is watching your every move. That's not fine, Maya." She pulled back to look at him. "How do you know about the suspension? I have people monitoring things, making sure you're protected even if I can't be there to do it myself." His hands cupped her face. "I want you to walk away. For real this time. Tell the FBI everything you know, which is nothing, but tell them anyway. Make it clear you were deceived, that you had no idea what I really was. They'll believe it. They'll leave you alone. And what about Jiwoo? Your ex's family is trying to take her to Korea. I know. And I'm going to fight it. But Maya, that's not your battle." "Yes, it is. That little girl calls me Maya Ioma. She draws pictures of me as part of her family. She's had enough loss and trauma. I'm not abandoning her, and I'm not abandoning you. You should. God, Maya. You should run as far and fast from me as possible." "Why? Because loving you is hard? Because it comes with complications?" Maya's eyes flashed. "I knew what I was getting into. Maybe not the specifics. Maybe not the FBI and federal charges. But I knew you were dangerous. I chose you anyway. Chose this. And I don't make promises I don't keep." Minjun kissed her, then desperate, hungry, grateful. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. "I don't deserve you. You definitely don't. But you're stuck with me anyway." She took his hand. "Now tell me how we save Jiwoo. Because if those people take her to Korea, we may never get her back. Minjun's expression hardened with determination. Then we fight, together. The custody battle and ultimate choice. 12 minutes. The courtroom was packed with media, lawyers, and curious onlookers eager to watch the drama unfold. Maya sat behind Minjun's legal team, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, trying to project calm she didn't feel. Across the aisle sat the Kim family, Ji-woo's maternal grandparents, aunt and uncle. They looked respectable, conservative, every inch the proper Korean family. They dressed Ji-woo in traditional hanbok, the little girl sitting rigid and unhappy between her grandparents. When Ji-woo saw Maya, her face lit up. "Maya Ioma," she called out, trying to stand. Her grandmother pulled her back down, speaking sharp Korean that made Ji-woo's face crumple. "They're not letting her speak to us," Minjun said quietly, his jaw tight with fury. "They've been poisoning her against me, against you, for the past week. She doesn't look poisoned. She looks miserable." The judge entered, and the proceedings began. The Kim family's lawyer laid out their case efficiently. Minjun was facing serious federal charges, potentially decades in prison. He'd exposed Ji-woo to a dangerous lifestyle, to violence, to unsuitable people, including a girlfriend, with no legal relationship to the child who'd been allowed to move into the home. Ji-woo would be better served returning to Korea, where she had blood family who could provide stability. Minjun's lawyer countered. Ji-woo had lived in Boston for 3 years. Her entire life was here, her school, her friends, her home. Removing her would be traumatic. Minjun hadn't been convicted of anything, was presumed innocent, and had been an exemplary father despite his legal troubles. And the unsuitable person they referenced was actually a registered nurse with no criminal record who'd saved Ji-woo's life. The judge asked to speak with Ji-woo privately. The little girl was escorted to chambers, and the courtroom waited in tense silence. 30 minutes later, Ji-woo emerged with red eyes and tear-stained cheeks. The judge followed, her expression thoughtful. "I've spoken with the child at length," Judge Martinez said. "She's articulate and intelligent for her age. She's expressed clear preferences about her living situation. However, this court must balance a child's wishes against their best interests, which aren't always aligned." Maya held her breath. "The allegations against Mr. Kang are serious. If convicted, he'll be incarcerated for years. Ji-woo cannot remain with him in that scenario. The Kim family has demonstrated they can provide a stable home, rooted in cultural tradition." "No!" Ji-woo's voice rang out. The little girl broke from her grandmother's grip, running toward the front. "I don't want to go to Korea. I want to stay with Appa and Maya Ioma." "Ji-woo, sit down," her grandmother commanded in Korean. "No, you don't listen. You never listen." Ji-woo was crying now, her small body shaking. "I want my real family." The judge's expression softened. "Ji-woo, sweetie, your grandparents are your real family. Maya is my real family. She saves people. She saved me when bad men were shooting. She helps me with homework and braids my hair and doesn't yell at me when I have nightmares." Ji-woo turned to look at Maya, her eyes desperate. "Please don't let them take me. Please, Maya Ioma." Maya's heart shattered. She started to stand, but Minjun's lawyer put a hand on her arm. "Not yet," the lawyer whispered. "Trust me." The lawyer stood instead. "Your Honor, if I may, we'd like to present an alternative custody arrangement, one that would allow Ji-woo to remain in Boston with someone who can provide stable care while Mr. Dollare, Kang's legal situation is resolved." "What arrangement?" "We propose temporary guardianship be granted to Maya Chen. She has no criminal record, stable employment. She's suspended from her job," the Kim lawyer interrupted. "Under investigation by the FBI. She's on voluntary leave while the hospital conducts routine background checks." Minjun's lawyer corrected smoothly. "She'll be reinstated once the process is complete. The FBI has confirmed she's not a target of their investigation. And most importantly, she has an established, loving relationship with the child. Ji-woo herself has asked to remain in her care." Judge Martinez looked at Maya. "Miss Chen, are you prepared to take on guardianship of this child? Understanding that it means full responsibility for her welfare, education, and care?" Maya stood, her legs shaking. "Yes, Your Honor. I love Ji-woo. I've been helping care for her for months now. She knows me, trusts me, and I would never let anything hurt her." "And your relationship with Mr. Kang? How do we know this isn't just a scheme for him to maintain custody through you?" Maya glanced at Minjun, seeing hope and fear warring in his eyes. "I love him, Your Honor. I won't lie about that. But even if something happened between us, I wouldn't stop caring for Jiwoo. She's not a tool or a pawn. She's a little girl who's lost too much already. Her mother died. Her father is facing prison. The last thing she needs is to lose everyone and everything familiar. This is absurd. Mrs. Kim stood, speaking accented English. This woman is not family. She has no legal right to our granddaughter. With respect, ma'am, Maya said quietly. Jiwoo calls me Ioma, not because I asked her to, but because that's what I've become to her. I know I'm not Korean. I know I'm not blood, but I love that little girl like she's my own. And sometimes, family is who shows up, who stays, who chooses to love you, even when it's hard. The courtroom was silent. Judge Martinez looked at Jiwoo, still standing in the middle of the aisle, small and defiant. Jiwoo, if I allowed you to stay with Miss Chen, would that make you happy? Yes. Please let me stay with Maya Ioma. The judge was quiet for a long moment. Then, I'm granting temporary guardianship to Maya Chen, with the following conditions. Mr. Kang will have supervised visitation rights. Miss Chen will provide monthly reports to the court on Jiwoo's welfare, and will revisit this arrangement in 6 months, at which point Mr. Kang's legal situation should be clearer. Your Honor, this is, Mrs. Kim started. My decision is final. This child has expressed clear preferences, and I see no reason to traumatize her further by removing her from everyone she knows. The gavel came down. We're adjourned. Jiwoo ran to Maya, who caught her in a tight hug. The little girl was sobbing with relief, her small body shaking. Thank you, Maya Ioma. I knew you wouldn't let them take me. I've got you, sweetheart. I've got you. Over Jiwoo's head, Maya met Minjun's eyes. He mouthed, thank you, his own eyes suspiciously bright. The Kim family stormed out, their lawyer already talking about appeals. But for now, Jiwoo was safe. She was staying. And Maya had just become a mother. The reality of guardianship hit Maya immediately. She'd gone from casual girlfriend to legal guardian in the span of a court hearing, with all the responsibilities that entailed. Jiwoo moved into Maya's apartment. Minjun's penthouse was still under FBI scrutiny, and Maya thought it better to provide Jiwoo with neutral space. She enrolled Jiwoo in a new school closer to her apartment, helped her pack her favorite belongings, tried to make the transition as smooth as possible. Minjun visited 3 times a week, under supervision, a condition of the custody arrangement. They'd meet at parks, museums, restaurants, always with a social worker present to ensure propriety. It was awkward and artificial, but it was better than nothing. How is she really doing? Minjun asked during one visit, while Jiwoo played on the swings nearby. She has nightmares. Wakes up crying for her Ioma, her birth mother. I think all this upheaval brought back memories of losing her. Maya watched Jiwoo pump her legs, her face determined. But she's resilient, stronger than she looks. Like someone else I know. Minjun's hand found Maya's, squeezing briefly before dropping. Physical contact was discouraged during supervised visits. My trial date is set. 3 months from now. What are your lawyers saying? That we have a chance. Lee's evidence is solid, but some of it may be inadmissible. If we can get key pieces thrown out, the prosecution's case weakens. He paused. But Maya, even if I win this, even if I'm acquitted, my life will never be normal. The FBI will always be watching. Lee's people will always be out there. I can't ask you to live like that. You're not asking. I'm choosing. Why? Why would you choose this mess? Choose me? Maya watched Jiwoo on the swings, heard her laughter floating back. Because that little girl needs both of us. Because I believe you're trying to be better. And because... She turned to meet his eyes. Because love isn't always convenient or safe or smart. Sometimes it's just necessary. I love you, Minjun said quietly. More than I thought I could love anyone after Soyeon. You've given me hope again, Maya. Given me a reason to fight for something better. Then fight. Win this trial. Get your life back. And then we build something real. A family. A future. His eyes held hers with intensity that made her breath catch. Marry me, Maya. What? Not now. Not while I'm facing charges and everything's uncertain. But after when this is over and I'm free, marry me. Be Jiwoo's mother officially. Let me spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of what you've given me. Minjun. You don't have to answer now. Just think about it. Think about whether you can see a future with us. With me and Jiwoo. Maya looked at this man dangerous, complicated, trying desperately to be better than he was, and saw their possible future. Saw Jiwoo growing up with two parents who loved her. Saw graduations and birthdays and ordinary moments that would be extraordinary because they'd fought so hard for them. Yes, she said simply. Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. After the trial. After you're free. After we're sure Jiwoo is safe, yes. Minjun's face transformed with joy so profound it was almost painful to witness. You mean it? I mean it. You're stuck with me, Minjun. For better or worse. He kissed her then, despite the social worker's presence. Despite the rules. Just a brief press of lips. A promise sealed. Appa, Maya Ioma, watch me, Jiwoo called from the swings. They turned to watch her together. Their hands clasped, building a family from pieces of broken pasts and uncertain futures. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't safe. It wasn't what either of them had planned. But it was theirs. The morning of Minjun's trial, Maya woke to find Jiwoo already dressed and sitting at the kitchen table, staring at her untouched breakfast. Sweetheart, you need to eat something, Maya said gently. What if they take Appa away forever? Jiwoo's voice was small, frightened. What if we never see him again? Maya knelt beside her, taking her small hands. Your Appa has the best lawyers in Boston. And he's innocent of most of what they're accusing him of. We have to have faith, but what if faith isn't enough? The question haunted Maya as she dropped Jiwoo at school and headed to the courthouse. She'd taken a leave of absence from the hospital, not suspended, despite what the Kim family had claimed, but voluntary leave to focus on Jiwoo. Her savings were dwindling. But Minjun's legal team had assured her that win or lose, Jiwoo's care would be provided for. The courthouse was a circus. Media everywhere, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. Maya kept her head down, pushing through to the courtroom where Minjun sat with his lawyers, looking composed despite everything. Their eyes met across the room, and Maya saw the fear beneath his calm exterior. Fear of losing his freedom. Fear of losing Jiwoo. Fear of losing her. She mouthed, I love you, and watched his shoulders relax slightly. The trial lasted 3 days. The prosecution painted Minjun as a calculating criminal mastermind who'd built an empire on violence and corruption. They presented financial records, surveillance footage, testimony from former associates who'd taken deals. But Minjun's lawyers were brilliant. They challenged every piece of evidence, exposed inconsistencies in testimony, proved that much of the financial evidence was circumstantial. Yes, Minjun ran import businesses. Yes, some of his associates had criminal backgrounds. But that didn't prove he was personally involved in illegal activities. The prosecution's star witness was Lee Sang-ho himself, testifying from prison about Minjun's alleged crimes. But under cross-examination, Lee's credibility crumbled. He admitted to personal vendetta, admitted he'd manufactured some evidence, admitted he'd testified hoping for leniency in his own case. On the third day, closing arguments finished. The jury deliberated for 7 hours. Maya sat in the courtroom gallery, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. Taejin sat beside her, equally tense. Even Minjun's stoic lawyers looked nervous. When the jury returned, the forewoman stood. On the charge of racketeering, we find the defendant not guilty. On the charge of money laundering, we find the defendant not guilty. On the charge of... Maya stopped hearing the words. Not guilty. Not guilty. Not guilty. Minjun's head dropped forward, his shoulders shaking with relief. His lawyers were shaking hands, celebrating, but Minjun just sat there, processing his freedom. Then he turned, found Maya in the crowd, and the look on his face, pure joy mixed with disbelief, made tears stream down her cheeks. The judge dismissed the jury, set Minjun free with all charges dropped. As soon as the gavel fell, Maya was pushing through the crowd, and then she was in Minjun's arms, both of them crying, holding each other like they'd never let go. It's over, he whispered into her hair. It's really over. Not quite. Maya pulled back, smiling through tears. Now you have to prove you meant all those promises, about going legitimate, about being the man Jiwoo deserves. I will. I swear I will. He kissed her, deep and promising. Starting today, starting right now. 6 months later, Maya stood in Minjun's penthouse, their penthouse now watching the sun set over Boston Harbor. The space had changed dramatically in 6 months. More of Jiwoo's artwork, plants that Maya had insisted on adding, photos of all 3 of them together, no longer hiding their relationship. Maya Ioma. Jiwoo burst in from her bedroom. Is it time yet? Almost, sweetheart. Be patient. Jiwoo was 9 now, thriving in school, her nightmares a distant memory. The custody arrangement had been made permanent 2 months ago, with Maya officially adopting Jiwoo as her daughter. The Kim family had eventually accepted it, maintaining distant but cordial relations. Minjun appeared from his office, having spent the day at one of his restaurants. He now owned 5, all completely legitimate. He divested from every illegal operation, turned evidence over to the FBI in exchange for immunity, and rebuilt his life from the ground up. It hadn't been easy. Some of his former associates felt betrayed. Others respected his choice. But Minjun had been firm. He was done with that life, done with violence and fear. He was building something better. "Is everyone here?" he asked Maya, straightening his tie. "Just arrived. Are you nervous?" "Terrified." But he was smiling. "Ready?" They walked together to the living room where their small gathering waited. Taejin and his family, Sarah and a few of Maya's friends from the hospital, Minjun's lawyers who'd become friends. And in the place of honor, a video screen connected to Seoul, where Minjun's grandmother watched via video call. "Halmyeoni," Minjun said in Korean, bowing to the screen. "Thank you for being here." "I wouldn't miss my grandson's wedding," she replied in Korean, her elderly face warm with joy. "Even if I wish you'd come to Seoul so I could attend in person. Soon. I promise we'll visit soon." The ceremony was simple, conducted by a minister who'd agreed to do the service in both English and Korean. Jiwoo stood between them as flower girl and junior bridesmaid, beaming with pride. Maya wore a simple white dress, elegant but unpretentious. Minjun wore a perfectly tailored suit, and when they exchanged vows promising to love, honor, and cherish each other through whatever came, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. "I, Minjun, take you, Maya, to be my wife. You saved my daughter's life, and then you saved mine. You saw goodness in me when I'd forgotten I had any. You gave me hope for a better future and then helped me build it. I promise to love you, protect you, and choose you every day for the rest of my life. I, Maya, take you, Minjun, to be my husband. You showed me that love isn't always safe or simple, but it's always worth fighting for. You gave me a daughter to love and a family to belong to. I promise to stand beside you, believe in you, and love you through every challenge and triumph for the rest of my life." When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Minjun kissed Maya with such tenderness it felt like a promise not just of love, but of the life they'd build together. "Can I call you Ioma now?" Jiwoo asked Maya afterward, her eyes hopeful. "Real Ioma, not Maya Ioma? You can call me whatever feels right, sweetheart." "Ioma," Jiwoo decided, hugging Maya tight. "Just Ioma." That night, after the guests left and Jiwoo was asleep, Minjun and Maya stood on the balcony overlooking the city. "Do you ever regret it?" Minjun asked quietly. "That day you threw yourself over Jiwoo? If you'd known where it would lead, the danger, the FBI, the trial, would you have still done it?" Maya thought about it. Thought about everything that had happened, the terror, the uncertainty, the moments when she'd questioned every choice. But then she thought about Jiwoo's laughter, about the family they'd become, about the man beside her who'd fought so hard to be better. "Yes," she said simply. "I'd do it all again, every moment, because it led me here, to you, to her, to us." Minjun pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. "I spent years building power, thinking it would keep me safe, keep Jiwoo safe. But real safety, real strength, it came from you, from love, from choosing something better. We chose it together. We did." He turned her to face him. "I have something for you. A wedding gift." "Minjun, we said no gifts. This one's important." He pulled out a folder, handing it to her. "Open it." Inside were documents, legal papers establishing a foundation. The Maya and Jiwoo Foundation for Emergency Medical Services and Child Welfare, funded with a substantial portion of Minjun's legitimate wealth. It'll provide scholarships for nursing students, fund pediatric emergency equipment, support programs for children who've lost parents, Minjun explained, "taking everything I built in darkness and turning it toward light. That's what you taught me was possible." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "This is Minjun, this is incredible. You saved my daughter with your bare hands and your courage. Now we'll help save others together, build something that matters, something Jiwoo can be proud of inheriting someday." "I love you," Maya whispered. "So much. I love you too. Thank you for not giving up on me, for seeing who I could be, even when I couldn't see it myself." They stood together watching the city lights, two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way, and built something beautiful from broken pieces. The next morning, Jiwoo jumped on their bed at 6 a.m., full of energy and excitement. Wake up, wake up. It's Saturday and you promised we could make pancakes. Minjun groaned good-naturedly, pulling his daughter into a hug. It's too early for pancakes. It's never too early for pancakes. Jiwoo turned to Maya. Right, Ioma? Right, baby. Let's go make breakfast and let Appa sleep. But Minjun got up anyway, following his wife and daughter to the kitchen. He stood in the doorway watching Maya teach Jiwoo how to flip pancakes, listening to their laughter, seeing flour on both their noses. This ordinary moment was more valuable than any empire he'd ever built, more precious than power or money or respect born from fear. This was what he'd been fighting for all along. He just needed Maya to show him it was possible. Appa, come help, Jiwoo called, and Minjun joined his family, leaving his dangerous past behind and walking into a future built on love instead of fear. Some acts of courage save a life in a moment. This one had saved 3 lives forever. The end. Thank you for staying with us through Maya, Minjun, and Jiwoo's complete journey. If you enjoyed this story of courage, redemption, and family forged through fire, please subscribe, like, and comment where you're watching from. We love creating these powerful stories of second chances and love that transforms. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is love someone completely, but it's also the most necessary.